Good afternoon. This is Tom, the designer from Justwood Furniture. I hope you're doing well. So, it's been quite some time. You guys obviously came in to our workshop and we had a big old chat about your thoughts and ideas to begin with. Chris has obviously since been down. He's taken some further site dimensions and he's talked through a few conceptual ideas. And of course, you guys have written down the measurements for the majority of your or all of your clothes and pass those details on to me. And this is my first draft attempt at your bespoke fitted furniture design. So, before we get stuck in, a bit of housekeeping. Of course, this is predominantly a production-based software. So the 3D, whilst it's accurate in its dimensionings, isn't always necessarily perfectly accurate in terms of colors and such like that. But it will give you a good idea of shape and space, which is the most important thing. And of course, some indicative colors and things of that nature. So let's just dive straight into the 3D. We'll open up the 3D here. So you can see here I've created a doorway, which is where you enter into the room. Of course, you've got two sets of cabinets here on the right, sorry. So if I spin it around, this gap over here represents where your windows would be. And we've named these cabinets accordingly. So that's cabinet A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the middle, and then H on the end there. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cabinets. So let's start on the left-hand side here with your double units. You have to forgive me, it's a bit hard sometimes to see the cabinets. I've used the green painted, green smoke from Farrow Ball for all the exterior parts. And for the interior parts, I've used Roble Denver, which is a melamine-faced MDF material. Now, if I open up the doors, let's just remove the doors for now so we can see the internals. What we've got is a hat shelf of 30 centimeters from there to there. That goes the same for both of these units here. So it should be big enough to put some pillows, maybe overnight bags and things of that nature. And on the left-hand side, what we've done is just tall hanging all the way right through. And it's about 90, I think it's about 96 centimeters of internal width in this left-hand unit, and we've got about 76 worth of internal width in this side. And you'll notice what I've done is I've put a vertical division in there, and I've created a space to put an iron at the top there, and then your ironing board will fit in that space below. So it's about 20 centimeters wide. And I'll get into some of the details for the site dimensions in just a moment. For now, I'm just giving you a rough idea of the vision. And of course, these are always things that we can dial in. Now, it's also important to notice that whilst I'm creating this, I'm looking at the hanging requirements that you've given us. So you've said 165 centimeters is the height requirement, and you've got about 150 centimeters worth of rail width, of which we're mostly fitting in these two units over here. And if we rotate over here, we've got the 105 centimeters is being fit over here. And then underneath it, we've got the slightly smaller space for your 85 height at 90 wide. Now, cabinet D over here, this small unit, it's got a door hinge, singular door hinge here. And I've created, this is surplus to requirement. So what we've done is created extra shelving for you here to possibly put some jumpers. And then I've got about a meter space of hanging just below here. So again, this is extra on top of what you've asked for. Now, because this unit will be single door, and of course, one of the key goals for us is to make sure that all the doors are, roughly speaking, the same width between these spaces. So the door would open this way, and if I take the doors off, you'll see that it goes behind the cabinet there. So you've got that much hidden, and of course this opening is only a single door width. So those hanging rails go all the way to the back of the cabinet there. And what I've done in this space is I've created again, another hat shelf of about just under 30 centimeters. And I've distributed it between half height hanging, and then the bottom space would be for folded trousers. That's the assumption that we made. And of course, folded trousers, they're very small comparatively. Of course, it wouldn't be in the upright position as sometimes people like to do, but this way we're able to optimize the internal vertical space for this unit. Now, we've accounted for, as you can see in this narrow unit, a small shelf at the top to put some, maybe some shoe boxes or what have you. And again, hard to see, but if I open the door, you can see we've created 3 equal drawers there. 1, 2, 3. Now, because it's hinged, this door on the right-hand side, it means that our drawer set has to be pushed inward, so it clears the door hinges, which is what that fat blue band is showing here. So from there to there, that's the clearance we need for the drawer hinges there. So I'll get into the dimensions of the drawers in just a moment. But as you can see, we've also added, if I take the doors off, we've created a mirror section here. And around it, we've created a framed lighting situation. So you'll have to forgive me, it's a bit harder to see there, but it is framed around the mirror set there. And if we go to the right-hand side, you can see there's the left-hand side of that mirror. Now, what we're left with is 2 cabinets. So we've got a pull-down unit over here, and then a shelf and a fixed rail below. And those 2 spaces are equal in height. I've just put that shelf at 50-50 and split the void equally. Now, you have got shelves at 30 centimeter high, 25 centimeter high, and 40 centimeter high. And what I've done is I've just created a bit of a wedding cake style just to give you some flexibility. And if we have a look at the internals, I'll be able to show you the distribution of these shelves going all the way up, bottom up. And I think what I did is I created the bottom the biggest, and then I equally spaced it, in fact, from there to there. When we tried to do the wedding cake style, we ended up with quite a small space at the top. So I think it's always wise to give you a nice big flexible space, and then equispace it at around 30-ish, I think is what I did, or around 40-ish. Centimeters, of course. So let's open this unit. We'll go to the final unit on the right. Okay, so as you can see, we're in an isometric perspective. Those are the doors in the front, and then on the internal space, right at the bottom, you can see there's a blue box there, which is underneath the first shelf. And the blue box represents the internal void of whatever space we're selecting. So there are the shelves in green. And you can see that's the total internal void. So at the bottom, we've got 50 centimeters. Of course, the front to back space, I call that the depth. That's 55 centimeters, roughly speaking. And you've got about 96 centimeters of internal width. And then each of these shelves are about 40 centimeters in height, all the way to the top. So it gives you that flexibility, so it doesn't really pigeonhole you to necessarily a 30 centimeter or a 25 centimeter, or even the 40 centimeter height. It's giving you that flexibility as you go up. Okay, let's start with the left-hand side. So we're going full circle now in cabinet A. And there's your hat shelf. Again, you've got 96 centimeter wide shelves. They're about 55 centimeters deep. and the rails are 196 centimeters from the floor, so very reachable height. And of course, the internal height of this is 184 centimeters. So realistically, it's bigger than the average 1.6 meters. So you might find, oh, my clothes only finish there or there, which means you can put lots of shoes or larger items underneath it. You know, there is a train of thought to say, well, let's put a shelf underneath there. But I think it might be better to have the flexibility of not having it, unless you're absolutely certain, no, I want to cut it off. But I find more often than not, people like to leave it open so that the clothes don't dangle and touch a shelf. And of course, you free that space to put taller objects if you want that optionality in the future. Of course, you could just move some clothes over and then just store things to the side. So that's cabinet A. Let's go into cabinet B now, as we're coming up to 11 minutes now. So let's race through. Again, isometric perspective. There are the doors. You've got your top shelf, your vertical division. That's the shelf that the ironing board will sit on. Your ironing board will sit within a 20 centimeter wide space. It's about 155 centimeters in height. And then you've got a space of about 31 centimeters in height. Again, it really depends on which orientation and brand vine that you have, though this is something that we can dial in together in our sessions once you do a bit of digging yourself. So the internal width of this space in this current configuration, you've got a 74 centimeter wide shelf, and the rail is in the same position as cabinet A, so just under that 2 meter mark. Okay, so cabinet C, up to 12 minutes now. So you've got 120 centimeter drop from the rail to the shelf below. So that again fits most of your 105 centimeter clothes. It doesn't quite reach that 90 centimeters wide. Though again, there are other spaces like the other unit across the way that you might be able to put some of this stuff in. So in principle, you've got more than you need, and it'll be a case of trying to optimize from here. Chris tells me that you haven't really got a his or her in mind. And of course, a lot of these measurements are aggregated. So I'll leave that for you guys to come back and tell me how you would like to optimize these space, or if indeed you'd like to keep it as is with a couple of minor tweaks. And you've got from the rail to the very bottom there of 90 centimeters. So that's going to fit your 85 centimeter high clothes at 90 wide. So again, you've got 84 wide, so it basically fits everything. And I'm sure you're going to find optional spaces to fit them. Now, if we go over to the second unit, cabinet D, this may be where the surplus goes, because you've got a rail of 96 centimeters there. So in principle, that fits the 95 high stuff just, though we could easily push this up a couple of mil just so it gives you a bit more headroom and flexibility if you're concerned with clothes dangling on the bottom of shelves and what have you. So more than enough space to play around to optimize or even grow into. Sorry, let's just show you the shelves again. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shelves at 28 centimeters high and 42 centimeters wide. And of course, the shelf depths are all the same at 55 here. Okay, let's just give that a close. Show you the corner unit now. So it's a 30 centimeter high hat shelf. And again, there's no shelf here, but what we've done is created a bias. So all of our rails sit 4 centimeters down below whatever limit is above it. So there's the hat shelf. We've got a void of 110 minus 4 centimeters. So it's a shelf drop from the rail to the imaginary plane of around 106 centimeters. And then below that to the next rail is another 4 centimeters. So there's a small bit of headroom there. Of course, it can dangle on there. Some people aren't bothered if their clothes dangle on a rail. They are if it's a shelf though, so small difference. And the bottom space here, you've got 74 centimeters. So that should very easily fit your folded trousers. Of course, if you measure that drop, we can always squeeze this down if you'd prefer to give more of a bias to the top space. And the internal width of this space is 96 centimeters wide. Okay, we're on to 15 minutes now, so let's jet through. We've got 2 equal spaces, a pull down rail at the top of 109 centimeters minus 4 centimeters, so it's about 105 centimeters drop from the rail to the shelf, and then the very same here. So because it's a pull down rail, you don't have to worry about reaching it. Of course, it will drop to chest height. And for this unit, we've got a hat shelf of 35, though we could match this in line with the others. I'm simply just playing around with numbers at this point, so there's no right answer here. And then we've got it's about a meter, 103 centimeters between the drawers and that shelf. Of course, I wondered to myself, well, how big do you need the mirror? Obviously, the higher the hat shelf, the bigger the space for the mirror becomes. So it may be a question of reducing this in line with a mirror size you're comfortable with, though it's about 42 centimeter wide space. Of course, because we have the drawers and those 2 vertical panels that you're seeing there in green, the drawers stepped inward, and we've got 3 equal drawers of 15 centimeters high, 35 centimeters deep, and 34 centimeters wide. So this should be great for your makeup and some of your other tools. And if I was to measure from the shelf to the carcass, it would be, so it's about 91, nearly 92 centimeters off the floor. That's the top of the, let's call it the countertop for your little vanity area. Of course, all of this is behind a door though. Okay, in the final unit, because we were unsure if you were going to have curtains or blinds, I didn't really want to have the pull down rail over here. So I thought it best simply to have the shelves over here, so you don't have to worry about pull down rails hitting curtain rails and things of that nature. But again, we've got 50 centimeters, 40, 40, 40, and 40. And that's it. That's everything I've got to show you in this video. I only have, unfortunately, one type of handle to show you in my software. It is a bit limited in that regard, but hopefully it gives you a good sense of what's possible with our cabinetry. Of course, feel free to go and pick your own handles and then hand them to us on site, and we'll be able to fit them when we install the cabinetry. Of course, I'm sure Chris has already talked to you a little bit about the handles. If not, we can send you over the catalogue for you to go through of our handle supplier. And this is something that we think usually goes best with shaker doors. It makes the most sense. And then we can have soft close hinges for your cabinetry. Okay, so bit of a long video, so hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions at all, please feel free to reach out and let me know. My name's Tom, and we'll speak soon. Bye for now.